All right, Marianne, please share about one of your upcoming tours, if you'd like.
Okay, thank you very much. I probably look as bad as I feel tonight, but after 2 weeks of COVID, and still not making progress. But anyway, welcome all. I just want to tell you a little bit about the trip to Costa Rica that we have coming up in January. Kindred Women Travelers is a group for women only, and we have only 6 or 7 people going on a trip. I accompanied the trip, and we stay in homes rather than in hotels. And so it's a very small, intimate group. We use local tour guides to show us around, and I thought maybe I'd share a screen.
Let me go ahead and give you screen share. So sorry. There we go. I think you should be
Um,
able to share now and give us the
kind of,
dates
so
tentatively or
Yeah, so just to give you a quick rundown, so it's planned for January 12 to 21, and I'm not obviously won't read to you this. I have a big interest in sustainable tourism, so I really try to attract women that really care about the environment and our climate and, are responsible travelers. Um, we're going to fly into San Jose and stay in this home in the mountains for a couple of days. So this is the kind of house that we rent. Everyone gets their own room. Um, and then we'll be doing a coffee tour nearby at a a small plantation run by a family, um, and then having lunch at their auntie's house. So it's a very local experience. From there, we go to La Fortuna, and this is the house that we will be staying in. We'll spend 4 nights in La Fortuna, and while we're there, we will be going on a river rafting trip through the jungle and take an authentic cooking class of Costa Rican um, cooking. We'll be going on the hanging bridges in La Fortuna area. From there, we go to the coast to Playa Hermosa, and we stay in this house that has a gorgeous view. And running through this quickly so I don't take up too much of your time or too much of my breath. And while we're there, we'll be going out on a boat tour to go snorkeling and beach hopping. Um, and and that's about it. So that's the general tour. And registration is now open. And if you're interested, go to kindredwomentravelers.com and you can read the details.
did anyone have any questions? I'll have to see if I can. Yes, Vicky, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Do you have other trips planned in the near couple of years?
I'm planning to go to Morocco in April and the Azores in June, Ireland, and probably the end of August or early September, and Vietnam next December.
Thanks. Sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll send out her information as well, Vicky, in a follow-up
Right.
email.
Oh, right. Got
Yeah,
it.
yeah, no worries. Thank you so much for coming tonight and sharing a little bit, Marianne. Sorry to hear you're under the weather.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm gonna duck out now, but thank you for
Yeah,
giving me the opportunity to
of
jump
course,
on for
to
a little
share.
while.
Yeah, of
Okay.
course. Thank you
All
for
right.
supporting the Travel Collective. I appreciate
Okay.
it. We'll be
All
in
right.
touch soon, Marianne. Take care.
Thanks, April. Everybody take care.
All right. right. I'm going to switch gears and how about Christine? Would you like to share about New York City and some of the things you do in New York City?
Yes, I'd love to do that. Thanks. Everybody, again, my name is Christine. My company is called Just Ask Christine because that's what people do when they come to New York. I do custom itineraries, private tours, very fun special occasion experiences, lots of family experiences. I have an NYC 101, which I love. It's a crash course on getting around and feeling happy and comfortable and not over scared because New York is not fun if you're not, comfortable enjoying it. You want to really feel good about it. So that's one of my top experiences that people like to start with. But I like to do full day experiences, sometimes multi. And right now, of course, coming up is fall foliage, which I love, especially Central Park during this time of year is going to be gorgeous. And holidays in New York City, the Christmas lights are coming and Thanksgiving parade. So it's a really busy, fun ending to the year. But most importantly, it's a custom experience. And I always say the product is my client. So I don't sell things on my website. I have samples, which you should definitely check out because they're super fun. My website's justaskkchristine.com. And of course, my Instagram is where all of the action is because I provide a very beautiful recap video for all of my clients, which is made with content that I create while we're together. I'm videoing the whole time so that people could be in the moment and let me do it. And then they get a video at the end and it's really fun. So I highly recommend you guys take a look at my Instagram because I'm really excited and proud about it. And I just think it would be fun for you to see it. That's also Just Ask Christine. And last but not least, 5-star reviews on Google. Yay!
That's great, Christine. And you mentioned fall and Christmas time. I think New York City has a lot to offer it in at Christmas time,
Beautiful,
at the
magical.
holidays. Yeah. What are a couple
Yeah.
of your favorite things, real quick?
Well, there's the usual that everybody can probably figure out on their own, which is Rockefellar Center, although it is better to have a guide, especially with all the people. It's nice to have a security guard with you. I act as bodyguard too. But no, especially I just think the window displays all year round, but especially during Christmas, not the ones that you hear about, but like Madison Avenue is full of beautiful displays. The hotels, I do hotel tours and all they're just done up beyond your imagination. And Hudson Yards is beautiful. So there's many different sections of the city that are just decorated to the nines. That are, beyond the typical tour guide book that you would read about during that time of year.
Yeah, that's what I love about you, Christine, too, is you really cater individually to what the client wants. If it's a girly trip, I know you've done birthday trips. I know you've done if there's a theme or you have certain interests. And I think for travelers, that's the important part is communicating what you really want, what your pace is, so that Christine or any of the other destination experts can really give you what you want. I mean, because a lot of these places, they have so much and it's hard to fit it all in all at once.
Yeah, and the pace is a good point. A lot of people call me, they choose private because they can make their, choose their own pace, choose their own interest, not on anybody's schedule. We start when we want, we finish when we want. And I always say it's an adventure for me. It's not a tour. It's like we're gonna wander for 6 hours and just see where we end up and just be spontaneous and just have a lot of fun. And most of my clients come back over and over because New York is so full of things that even as a New Yorker myself, my whole life, I still discover things every single day. So it's nice to come back over and over and over and just dig into all the different neighborhoods too.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Christine. So did anyone have questions for Christine? Let's see if I can see everyone in case I've got a hand up. If not, like I said, I will send out Christine's information because oftentimes if you're traveling internationally now, you might want to add on a night or two at New York City before you go. It kind of makes it more relaxing. I mean, flying these days has just gotten really stressful. So I know myself too that it's nice to maybe just take an extra day at each leg of the trip if you can and spend some time and stretch it out. So thank you, Christine. I think I'm going to throw Karen up next because she's got an incredible book. And she also happens, I believe, to currently live in New York City, if I'm not mistaken.
I do.
and just her years of traveling and adventure. So she's got a couple amazing books. So,
Just
um,
happen to have them with me.
yep,
I'm
let
not
me
in my
switch you.
apartment. I'm actually visiting someone. So they very kindly let me use their apartment and use their computer.
Oh, nice. Thanks.
Yeah. So this was my first book. I don't know. You probably can't. Well,
Nope.
let me
Hang
blur
on.
the
Yeah,
I
unblur it
blurred the
maybe.
background. Yeah, hang on a second. I
Or
gotta
maybe if you
figure.
hold it in front of your face, maybe. There. Back a little. There we go. We got it. TravelMania: Stories of Wanderlust.
That was my first book, and my came out in July of 21. And this is my second book, which if I can
There
you
you
see?
go. Got it. Yep. Wanderlust.
Okay. And that one is getting released on October 3rd. And if you happen to be in the New York area, I am going to be having a launch that I will invite you to if you email me, which I'm sure you will have from the information that April provides. And what I thought I would do is talk a little bit about the books and then actually read you a couple of very short pieces.
Yes.
The the first book, TravelMania, was written over many years. I was working and traveling. I've been to 95 countries, and a lot of them very many times. In fact, it's kind of a joke. I went to Australia in 2019, and people kept saying to me, "Oh, you're going to love Australia. You're going to love Australia." And I said, "Yeah, I know that. I've been there." And they go, "Yeah, but you can't have seen all of it." I said, "Well, I haven't seen all of it, but this is my 8th trip to Australia." And they kind of went, "Your 8th trip to Australia?" I was like, yeah. So because I was traveling a lot for business. So, and then I always, because it was my own business, I would take off time and just go explore. I wasn't going to travel that far and go for a 4-day meeting. That just made no sense to me. In any event, the first little piece I want to read is about Australia. And this was on my very first trip to Australia. I'd gone down there on vacation with my boyfriend, and we wanted to see everything. But one of the things that I particularly wanted to see was the outback, and not just Ayers Rock, which is the thing that everybody goes to, but I wanted to go out to some of the opal mining villages. So this is what the beginning of what happened, and then it goes on. The trip's itinerary was for 6 tourists to fly on a prop plane from Adelaide to Andamuka, where we'd spend the night, then fly to Coober Pedy to explore the town, and return to Adelaide the next day. When we arrived at the designated meeting point, a lanky man who introduced himself as Noah met us. "Well, now, you must be Karen and Marty." "We are." "Well, you are very lucky. The other group canceled at the last minute, so you'll be having a personal tour." That sounded good until he walked us across the tarmac to a somewhat battered-looking 4-seater plane. I'd never been in such a small aircraft before. With deeply tanned, wiry arms, Noah grabbed our bags and heaved them aboard. Then he prepped the plane, removing chocks from the front of the wheels, releasing the tethers, securing the wings, and doing a walk around to make sure everything looked in order. "Climb aboard." I looked hesitantly at the plane, then at him, and back at the plane. "How do I do that?" "Step on the wing." He glanced at me as if saying, "How else would you get into it?" Then he said, "Oops," and produced a plastic box for me to use as a step. I got on without embarrassing myself too badly. Marty, at 6'6", had no trouble stepping onto the wing, though he banged his head with a loud thump as he ducked through the doorframe. With the doors closed and propellers whirring, I tried to breathe steadily to keep my mounting anxiety in check. I cinched my seatbelt a little bit tighter. Daylight creeping through the door seams and a crack in the windshield ratcheted my fear up. Noah, speaking to the tower, said, "Roger that." He turned to Marty, sitting beside him up front. "Here we go. Ready?" "Oh, yeah." We taxied over to the runway, and with a surprisingly smooth takeoff, we were aloft. "We won't be flying very high, so you should have a clear view." I peered out the window, watching the city recede and empty land with sparse vegetation appear. From this vantage point, kangaroos looked like cartoon characters as they hopped across the landscape. Then there was only dirt, rocks, and scrubby shrubs. What occasionally appeared to be water were mirages. When I questioned him about that, Noah told me they were dried up riverbeds and lakes. How do you know where we are? Marty asked. Noah rifled through a stack of papers, finally pulling out a road map. He unfolded it, then pointed to a thin line. See that road? He moved his finger along the line, then pointed down to the landscape below. I looked to the ground, squinted, and detected only the slightest of dirt tracks. That's what I'm following. All I could think of was, yikes. I wondered what happened when there was a dust storm and all those faint traces were obliterated. I could feel the plane descending, but saw nothing that resembled a runway, much less an airport. Where are we landing? Marty asked. Noah pointed straight ahead. In the distance, I could see a limp windsock surrounded by a lot of nothing. The plane continued down, and soon we were bumping over rocky red earth. There were no buildings in sight. In fact, there wasn't much of anything other than a strip of land outlined by tires, the runway. And it goes on from there.
Oh my gosh, that's fabulous, Karen.
And it gets more interesting as the trip goes along. And then I thought I would read you a second very, very short piece. And this one is, I went to China, and for a couple of days we stayed in a Chinese home. And I was with a group, and we stayed, it was in a farming village, and we stayed with the family. And it was a woman, her husband, her kids, and her mother. And now we're gonna just get into one little section of it. She seated us at a round table and served tea. Since we couldn't chat because we spoke no Chinese and Mrs. Zhang spoke no English, we showed each other photographs. It was interesting to see how similar Chinese and American pictures of families are. Smiling parents, grandparents, and children, often with a family pet. Some were casual, others from celebratory occasions such as weddings, birthdays, and graduations. Our guide had provided us with sheets of phrases in Chinese and English, useful phrases 1 and useful phrases 2. Each phrase was numbered. On one side of the page, the text was in English, and on the flip side in Chinese. To communicate, you'd look for a phrase you wanted to share. Then you'd find the same number on the Chinese side and show it to the host. She'd then read the Chinese translation. Both our small group and Mrs. Zhang kept confusing page 1 and page 2. For example, looking at the page in front of me, I'd suggest to another guest that she point to number 23 to tell Mrs. Zhang, "Thank you, you're a very generous host." The other guest would look at her page and say, "Why would I want to tell Mrs. Zhang, now we will make pickled vegetables," number 23 on the other sheet. Mrs. Zhang would flip back and forth and point to something like, "What beautiful children," while she looked at a photo of her guest's cats, who were all continuously in stitches.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that's a great little piece. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So Karen, with all of your travels, if you were to suggest something for people, how do they choose? I know we've got a few new travelers on the call tonight.
Well, the thing that I always say is pick something that you really love and are passionate about. If you love history, go on a history tour. If you love sports, make the trip around sports, particularly one you don't know much about, because you will learn, and you'll learn about the customs, and go, just go to a rugby match if you're in London. If you like art, do it around art. If you like music, what doesn't matter what it is, it's kind of irrelevant. I happen to love cooking, so I go on cooking tours very often, and I often arrange it once I'm in country. But if you pick something that you really like, you're going to have something in common with people around you. And that's a great way to start because it gives you, kind of a grounding. And so that's always my first suggestion for people is pick something you really love and plan around that.
Yeah, I really like that tip actually too, because you can check off like seeing the main sites, but I think you'll have it's just a deeper experience if you really go and do something that you're passionate about, whatever that is. If, and I see so much more of that happening. We're so blessed now with the internet, in fact, that there's almost too much information, but if you want to if you love to shop, you could literally, call up Christine and she can take you to the best shops in New York or in any other country as well, whether it be Egypt, Morocco. I know you can go see where they dye the textiles. I think that's a fabulous trip.
I mean, I've got a friend at the moment who's on a weaving tour. She's a weaver, and she's at the moment in Sweden where they have a very specialized kind of weaving, and she's there for 10 days looking at different weavers work and going to galleries and getting to see some other things as well. But that's the focus of the tour. She didn't know anybody else on the tour, and she said she's having a fabulous time because they all have it in common.
Yeah.
So
I love that. So where can people get your books, Karen?
anywhere. Basically, they're on Amazon, they're on Barnes and Noble, they're on Indie. If you go into a bookstore, if they don't have it, they'll order it. They can, you can get it anywhere basically. And again, the Wanderlust is not out yet. It'll be out on October 3rd, but you can pre-order it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been quite a trip, and I'm working on my third book now. So
Yay.
very busy doing that. Okay, the two books are TravelMania. I got to get right where
There it is, TravelMania, Stories of Wanderlust, Karen Gershowitz. And I will be sending out a follow-up email too with links to
Wanderlust.
Yep, links to Karen. And like she said, if you go Google her on Amazon or any other book site too, you should be able, or walk into your local bookstore, actually talk to a person, call them up and get it there. And
yeah, you can pretty much get it anywhere. And they're fun. I mean, people, and it's funny because I've gotten, this is my third career, and it has really taken off as a career. I'm now which is another thing people should know about, is Journeywoman.
yeah,
I'm on the editorial board of Journeywoman, and I'm on their speakers bureau, and I write a lot for them. And it's a kind of an information clearinghouse for women 50 and over who are solo travelers. And it's a great place to get information. And they have lots of really interesting articles, and it's a great way to connect with other people. And they have a book club, and they have a podcast. They've got all kinds of stuff. And then I write for two other magazines, online zines. And because the book is coming out, I've been writing like a fiend. Today I was working on two different articles that are due tomorrow. So, but and they're both fun topics. One of them is called Cooking Your Way Around the Globe. So that's an obvious one. And what is the other one? You'd think I would remember since I just wrote it, but it's escaping me at the moment. But
that's
anyway.
okay. Yeah. And if any of you have an interest in writing or doing something with your travel experiences, Karen and I are working to hopefully put together a small weekend workshop, probably on the New England side of the United States, whether it's Connecticut or somewhere in that neighborhood, for springtime. So if you have an interest in that, when I send out the email, just let me know. So as we develop that, we can inform you right away. But I know I want to get better at writing. I think it's a great way to share your experiences and leave a legacy, leave something behind to those.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be that you're writing a book. That's not of this. One of the things that April knows is that I started journaling. My mother got me into it when I was 8 years old. Anytime we took a trip, she made me write a journal about what we were doing. And I still have the ones from when I was 8, 9, and 10. And she absolutely got me into the habit of doing it. And I've been keeping travel journals my entire life. And so I have this wealth of material. So when I go back to the books, people will say, how do you know all these details? How do you remember all of this? And I said, you want to see my journals? And there it is. And you read a little bit, and I have tons of photographs, and it immediately comes back. And so it's a way of really processing your travels a little more deeply. And again, it doesn't have to be that you want to write a book or write articles, just for yourself. I find it invaluable and fun. I go back and I read them and I relive the trips.
Right. Yeah, that's the best part. I think that's the best part. Yeah. Well, thank you, Karen. I'm so glad you could come tonight and share.
You're welcome.
So let us move on. Laurie, are you ready to share about Egypt? Laurie Nasser.
I am, yes, thank you. Okay, so we do trips to Egypt, Africa, South Africa, Middle East. Like April is going to be joining us with a trip to Egypt in November. We do small trips to like 8 to 10 people, and we are a luxury tour operator. We also are specialty, like we do individualized tours, so we don't do canned tours. If you want to tell us what you want, we can customize it for you. If you want to do what everybody else does, we can do that, but for the most part, yeah, we're small groups. We also have a trip going out in April this year, that 2024, that is going, it's called the 10 Commandments, and that will go to Egypt, Israel, and Jordan. And we actually travel through the desert following Moses' path, and go to St. Catherine Cathedral in monastery in Israel, and climb the mountain that Moses received the 10 Commandments from. And we go there at 3 o'clock in the morning, so we're up at daybreak and get to witness the sunrise. And then we walk back down, and we will drive to Israel from there and spend about 5 days in Israel, in Jerusalem and Tiberias, and then drive over to Jordan, where we will see Petra and the Dead Sea, as well as camping out in the desert under Martian tents, which is pretty cool, and four-wheel driving there. And then we finish our trip by going back to Egypt and leaving from there. So that's our April trip. In June, we are going to South Africa, where we will see Johannesburg, Cape Town, Sabi Sands 3-day safari, and then go to Victoria Falls for 3 days, and a 1-day trip to Botswana for another safari, which is amazing. And July of 2025, we're putting together a trip to Kenya and Tanzania, a safari there, with an optional to Zanzibar.
Wow.
Yeah, we do. If you call us and you tell us you want a trip someplace, we'll put it together for you.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about the connection to Egypt, because that I think is really where you shine. Just the whole background of the Egypt tours. I mean,
So my husband is Egyptian, and I met him over in Egypt many years ago. I was on a tour there, and I always say that I brought home the best tourist gift there was. We've been married almost 40 years now, and so he worked for a tour company in Egypt. And when we came back here, he opened up his own tour business, and he's been in business now for I think 36 years. So yeah, he's been everywhere. He's been Morocco, Turkey, Syria, any place you can imagine. He's gone in that area, and he's an expert on everything that has to do with Egypt and Africa.
yeah, and I think that's part of the appeal too, because since he is local to Egypt, I know I'm looking forward to the visit to the village, where he has family members still,
Right.
and maybe sitting down, I believe, and having a meal. I think that,
You're gonna have lunch, yeah. You're gonna have lunch with the family, the whole family. So
yeah,
yeah, a traditional lunch, and you'll get to walk through the village and meet other villagers there. Not city folk. These are farmers, and very kind people. So get to know the true Egyptians.
right. And that's what it's nice is it's not just the glossy places that you see in the pictures, but the real country, and exchanging and having an experience with the people that live there, just like you and I. I think that's
Right.
one thing that travel really does, is opens us to these people are like us. We may have a language barrier, but
That's exactly true, and you don't realize how kind people are. A lot of people tell me that they're afraid to go to Egypt, and I don't understand why, because if they've ever been there, they'll understand that the people are probably the kindest people you've ever met. they will bend over backwards to make sure that everything is okay and welcome you into their house and feed you, and just kindness that you can't believe. So Egypt is not a country to be feared. It really isn't.
Right. And there's just so much history there. I mean, every day they're finding new, remnants, new archaeological digs happening all the time. So it's a country that continues, again, it has multiple layers. I think you could probably go back and not see the same things each time.
Yeah, they just opened, or they're opening. It hasn't completely opened yet, the new Grand Museum. So we will get to see a little bit of it, not the whole thing. But yeah, they've opened maybe 3 rooms in it. So we
Oh,
get to see that.
nice. Oh, that's
Yeah, and then
exciting.
the mummy room in a different museum. But yeah, it's beautiful there. A lot of artifacts.
Yes, most definitely. Well, thank you so much, Laurie, for joining. And I will send out Laurie's information. I highly recommend her and her husband Hamdi for any of your Egyptian travels and exploring the Nile and all of the other. I'm sure the South African safaris too are just as amazing as well. So
Yeah, it is.
thank you, Laurie. And
Thank
next,
you for having me.
yeah, sure. Next, I've got Elaine. Are you
Well,
there?
yes, I represent the country on the other corner of Africa. So yes, some of you already know that Morocco is my passion. And so I support a company called Sahara Adventures. And if you take a look at our website, you'll see a range of standard group tours, but we specialize in custom tours. And so I'm reflecting on what Laurie has just said, and of course, Karen's wonderful experiences. Those are the kinds of experiences you have when you go on a custom tour. And so, like Laurie, although we operate only in Morocco, when you contact us, you can get a tour anywhere you want. And if you just tell us the kind of experiences you're looking for, the kinds of things you'd like to see and do, we can help you. If you've been on these calls before, you've heard me talk before about some of the group tours that we do that I escort, including the culinary tour that we have next spring. And we also have a women's tour next spring as well. But the one that I wanted to talk about this evening, it's actually a custom tour that we've developed for a couple who are coming out of Spain and plan to visit Morocco for 11 days afterwards. So I'm kind of putting out the call to any of you who are also visiting Spain, because this is a classic combination. For anybody who's visiting Spain or Portugal, you're 90% of the way to Morocco. And of course, the cultures and histories are so intertwined that it just makes perfect sense for you to visit Morocco at the same time. So, excuse me, this tour is special because it starts in Tangiers. And we don't often start there because for most people, if they're coming from some other place, they're usually landing in Casablanca. So the fact that this one starts in Tangier gives us a special opportunity to showcase some of the cities in the northern part of the country. So it starts in Tangier. We'll also be spending a partial day in Tétouan, which is one of the UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Excuse me, that lots of people never get a chance to visit. We'll be spending a night also in the blue village of Chefchaouen. There's a couple of nights in Fez. This tour also goes to the desert for 2 nights. There's a night in Ouarzazate, halfway back to Marrakesh. A couple of nights also in Marrakesh itself, and then a departure from Casablanca. Now that is optional in the sense that if you need to go back to Tangier or if you want to depart from Marrakesh, that can be arranged as well. So the only thing that's really set about this tour is the major part of the itinerary. And, there are 2 people already signed up for this tour, which also means it's a guaranteed departure. So the dates for this one are February 29th to March 10th, which is a little bit early, but we want to complete this tour before Ramadan starts. So those are the dates that are set for this particular tour.
And the weather that time of year should be cooler, I would imagine, Elaine?
It will be cooler. It should still be nice for your walking tours and walking around during the day. So it'll be comfortable temperatures during the day. There could be the odd day of rain, particularly up in the mountains, but typically the rainy season is pretty well done. And again, by the time you're getting into mid-March, the weather's wonderful. So this is really a good time to be visiting Morocco. And I say this is it's going to be a popular time next year because you are coming into the country when it's a bit cooler and you're missing Ramadan. Ramadan goes till about April 10th. And so that means, you know, it's a wonderful time to be in Morocco in April, but you don't want to be there during Ramadan, especially if it's your first time, and especially if you like food. So,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
because all of the cafes and restaurants are closed during the day.
Got it.
So you'll get your breakfast at your riad, and then we have to figure something else out for lunch. So we pretty much know on these tours where the places are that will stay open to service the tourist trade. But if it's, you know, servicing the tourist trade, well, it's not necessarily the kind of authentic places that we'd really prefer to take you. But nevertheless, you'll get fed. And then, of course, by 7 o'clock in the evening, sundown, then, or excuse me, yes, then by that time the restaurants are opening again.
Yes.
As I say, that trip is a guaranteed departure. In US dollars, the price is likely to be in the range of $2,500 to $2,700 per person.
That's really reasonable. And I think it's important to note since Marrakesh recently had a major earthquake that's probably of concern to travelers. Do you want to bring us up to date a little bit on how it's impacting you or the country? I know we talked before we got on camera, but you know this is in people's minds.
Indeed. So yes, I'm happy to tell you that Marrakesh and Morocco generally is open for business. So the earthquake was centered about 45 kilometers south of Marrakesh in the high Atlas Mountains. And the tiny little villages made of mud brick and straw have largely been destroyed. So there's a great deal of death and destruction there, I'm sorry to say. We seldom take people there except as day trips out of Marrakesh. And so for the foreseeable future, we won't be taking people there until they've had a chance to recover. You know, there will be roads that have been destroyed and that have to be recreated. And, you know, some of the accommodations up there have also been destroyed. So we'll just be avoiding that area for some time. For people coming through the mountains from the desert to Marrakesh, my understanding at this point is the road is still open. So that's good news too. But certainly by the time that this particular trip takes place, Morocco will have recovered. In Marrakesh itself, despite the news reports, the only destruction has been centered in the oldest part of the city, where again, the buildings are very precarious because they're built in, 1,000 years ago. So there's no structural steel in them. And so some of them have collapsed. Having said that, many of the historic sites of interest, some have been damaged a little bit, but apparently they're still open. So we can assume that they'll take advantage of the winter when there's fewer visitors, probably to make repairs. So again, we can expect that they'll be open and functional. Otherwise, the rest of the country, many places did feel tremors, but there is really no damage. So again, the hotels and places where we'd normally take you are still functional.
That's good to know, definitely. Does anyone have questions for Elaine? Or even Laurie, since I didn't even ask about questions for Laurie, so I apologize. And if I see a hand, and I'll be sending out, like I said, after the call, I'll be sending out you their contact information directly, their website, so you can always ask them questions, contact them about, just individual needs, maybe you want to design something completely different. I think that's the beauty of Elaine, Laurie, Christine, all the people that I connect with on these calls is that, they are interested in doing something unique and different. It's not always about a package tour, but often if you're a solo traveler, it is nice to be able to join a group and join a like-minded group. So asking lots of questions, finding out what the other interests are, because you can definitely tailor a trip as well. Anything else? Oh, did someone raise their hand? I'm sorry. Oh no, it's okay. All right. Thank you, Elaine. Thanks for sharing about Morocco and Marrakesh. And I'm so thankful to hear your connections are safe. And, I know the news does make it sound like, everything's doom and gloom, but a lot of times these are the places when they have had something happen and it's safe to do so. Going back and supporting these places, that is the best thing we can do to help, is giving them our tourist dollars. And I'm sure I can also, when I connect you with Elaine's website, she has potentially other ways if you just want to help support and show support, because again, she has direct connections in Morocco, and sometimes going through larger organizations, by the time the actual people get the money or the aid or whatever it is, it's all been whittled off to other arms and legs. So that's another way we can connect with Elaine and support. Coming to the Sahara is the name of her website, and the people of Morocco, the people just like you and I, just trying to live their lives and share their wonderful, beautiful country. And
if you check our Facebook page, actually, I've posted some pictures about show you what those villages looked like before the disaster, because I'm sure you've seen the rubble. You don't need to see more of that. And then sort of as a company, the man who owns our company over there, Imad Sanoun, he and his brother have themselves gone to the grocery store and they've bought big bags of supplies, and they've made like care packages essentially. So I think he's done 20 now, but because we have our own car, he has driven those out to the camps and distributed those to people. So yes, we're involved in direct support of the people there. And if you want to join us in doing something like that, then be happy to hear from you. Obviously we don't supply tax receipts or anything, but if you want to be sure that when you give some money, it's going to go directly to people and supply them with things they need, just let me know.
And take us back a minute, Elaine, because I know we have some new listeners on the call. Oftentimes, again, I think like Egypt, a lot of people feel like as a woman, as solo woman traveler, that Morocco, unfortunately, is one of those areas we might not want to consider. But maybe share a little bit of your origin story and how you got involved with creating your company. I think it's beautiful.
Sure. Well, thank you for the opportunity. Well, sure. I mean, I've long been an independent traveler, and in 2013, I was casting about, and I have a hobby interest in textiles, and stumbled across a UK website where the woman offered tours into Morocco. And I was initially attracted by the prospect of spending a week making carpets. And then I spotted that she had a culinary tour. It was going to start in a village in the desert and go up into the mountains to different villages, and you'd learn the cooking along the way. So that's what I signed up for. And then I said, well, I'm not going to go all the way there just for a week. What else can I do? And I started reading about Morocco just by getting the guidebooks from the library, and in no time I had 3 more weeks planned. So I was actually in Morocco when the company contacted me and said, oh, we're so sorry, we didn't get enough people registering, so we're canceling the program, but we don't want to give you your money back. So of course, so go to the Riad, which is like a boutique hotel. The man who runs it offers all kinds of tours. You still want to do cooking, he'll organize it. You want to go to the mountains, he'll organize it. You want to go to the desert, he'll organize it. And that's what caused me to say, I'm going to do that, because what was really hard to do for myself as a solo woman traveler the first time was getting to the desert, because no matter what what you planned, you had to get there on public transportation, which felt scary. And then even once you got there, you still had to hire a private driver to go into the dunes themselves. I just thought maybe for my first time that was too hard. Here was my chance. So yes, that's what I signed up for. And happily, there were 2 other people staying at the Riad who decided to change plans and join me, because they had the same issue. They didn't know how to figure that out. So now the Riad owner was happy because he had 3 of us traveling to the desert with his driver. Well, it turned out that those two people had health issues and they shouldn't really have been going when it was hot or so hot. So after a couple of days on the trip, I kind of stopped being a guest and I started working with Imad, the driver, to make sure we all got back safely. Well, the rest is history because we got back and we kind of looked at each other and said, maybe we could do some more of this. So 10 years later, here we are, you know, a car and a website and a business. And we, you know, take 50 to 70 people to Morocco every year. And, you know, really what I'm doing, because clearly I'm much older, I'm having a happy second career, but I'm really doing this to help a really deserving young man start in business for himself. That's what this is really for. Because it's really hard to start in business for yourself in Morocco. You know, if you don't have money or property, it's so hard. And so he was never going to have a future because he was from a really poor family in the desert. You know, he is really smart, but he had to leave school at about age, you know, 14 to help his family earn a living. And in Morocco, there's no adult education or anything like that. So there's no way for people like him to get back on the education track. And there's just legions of young men like him. And these are who the drivers are. This is one way where they can get respectable employment. And in our case, we pay a living wage so that he has a chance at a future. So we are ethical in our practices and concerned about sustainability and the environment and giving people a future. So that also means that we support local businesses. We don't use the big chain hotels. And we want to showcase the authentic Morocco and give everyone a wonderful experience that they can read stories like Karen's about.
Yeah. Oh, that's fabulous. Thank you so much, Elaine. As always, it's always a pleasure to have you join me and share about your amazing experiences to Morocco and the country you love. So thank you. We've got a couple minutes left. I'm not going to share much about my trip, but I just got back from Alaska, had an incredible time, and I do already have 2 deposits in hand for 2024. So it does appear that I'll be leading a trip to Alaska. I think I'm going to slow it down a little. Just again, pacing. Some people like things fast, but I think I'm finding that taking a little more time and really being able to take a walk and sit outside and all of those things are something that really appeals to me. So I've reworked the itinerary a bit. I have the dates and I have pricing, so I will send out a link to that if you want to hear more about that from me. Just now kind of going through my pictures. It was an amazing experience. For many of you that know me, I like to go to places when it's scenically desirable, I guess, for my camera and my creative spirits. And autumn has always called to me. So if it's not going to New England to see the leaves, Alaska, that's what happened with Alaska. Is originally I went to see the Northern Lights and realized the fall foliage happens at that time too for Alaska, and the animals are on the move. So was very blessed this last trip to see a lot of wildlife. And like with many places, things are changing rapidly. Permafrost is melting, so Alaska is in change. Each year I go, even nature itself, you know, maybe we see more animals, but like this year, none of the actual trees were yellow yet. So odd, they've just had a lot of rain, but fortunately my trip wasn't marred by rain. It seemed like every time we needed to be outside, miraculously the sun came out, so I was very happy about that. But we did see a lot of wildlife instead of the fall colors that we normally see. So that's what I've got. We're at the end of the hour, so please check back to the website. It's the-travelcollective.com. I have a YouTube channel where you can see other videos on Elaine, Karen, who was on with her books, and Laurie with and Christine. And so thank you to all of our guests, and Marianne, who was on earlier. We also have videos on things like travel medical insurance, things that you might want to consider when you're traveling. I will say in my last group as well, Marianne mentioned COVID. One of my participants domestically had 2 connections, and due to excessive coughing, they would not let her board the second flight. And this is domestically in the United States to get home. And at some point, by denying her because of the excessive coughing, she ended up at a walk-in clinic, or maybe they insisted that she get doctor's clearance to take her flight. She tested positive for COVID, and the airline, the US airline, domestic cities, did force her to self-quarantine. So she's been quarantining for 5 additional days to her trip. So had she not have medical insurance, that's just additional out of pocket that she would be spending. So again, if there's issues that you come up that you may not even think about, like COVID is still out there, and we don't think that, I'm sure plenty of travelers that weren't coughing boarded the plane may have been carrying COVID, but in her case, she was flagged because of her asthma and excessive coughing. So we'll probably kind of go over some of that if she's willing to share, and willing to share what kind of travel medical insurance. I'll be including that on a future video. And for travelers like Elaine and the rest of you, we will be attending TBEX, which will be taking place in Spain in 2024. So if you'd like to join us, we'd love to have you or learn more about it. Reach out to me. I did get a discount code to participate. It's going to be a lot of fun. And maybe you just want to come to Spain, and we're going to have some meetup events probably a couple days prior to the event. I'm coordinating that now with TBEX as well. So that'll be super exciting. So thank you again so much for giving your time tonight. Thank you, Elaine, Christine, Laurie, Vicky, all of you on this call tonight. Thank you for sharing and joining. And I will be posting the future dates for these events on the-travelcollective.com. And if you pre-register for the Zoom call, if something last minute happens, you do get notified then, because as I mentioned on a previous call, I'm juggling a lot between all the meetup groups, Facebook groups, and all the other places I'm trying to share travel with you all. So again, have a great evening and take care, and watch for that email. Thanks, everyone.
Everyone.